And now, a thought from man. I'm gonna be honest, I forgot this was supposed to be a series. Like, I really forgot that this was coming out. I completely got blindsided by it. I mean it. I really forgot this was supposed to be a thing. Because it just seemed like, why? Did we really need this to be a series? Was anybody really asking for a Hotel Transylvania TV show? I mean, come on. The movies are good, but come on. No! The series is in the same vein as the Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs TV show, where it's a prequel instead of being a sequel. And it's sort of done better here because it doesn't seem like a total retcon where it's like we're trying to justify ourselves, but at the same time it's still like, did I want a prequel? It just feels kind of odd. The main premise is about Mavis taking over the hotel while her dad's away on official vampire business. Her aunt Lydia, who's the Count's older sister, comes in to make sure she doesn't screw things up and tries to keep order while the Count's away. And for the most part, it's just okay, you know? There's just kind of no reason for it. You get all these new characters who were never in the original movies, so it just seems like you're kind of wasting time. At least with the Tangled TV series, the new characters work because it's after the first movie. Technically, it's still a prequel in a sense, but it's a prequel to a short. And even in the short, you don't see Flynn and Rapunzel too much, so of course you could sort of have these fill-in-the-blank characters. For here, there's no real reason for them. It's just more on the lines of, well, we need characters because the movies had a lot of characters, so here you go. And that's just kind of bad in my opinion.
What is the meaning of this?
The most common problem with these TV series based on a movie is usually they don't get the original director or writers back. Gendy Tartakovsky's not working on this at all, and the thing is, this is based in Canada. Like, it's made and produced in Canada. That's just kind of the weird thing about it. It's like, why? Why outsource it like that? That's just kind of odd. And the thing about Canada is they also have a rule where it's like, you can't even get voice actors from America to do the voice work. They have to use Canadian voice actors. So a lot of the characters are voiced by all new different people. They're all passable, but they just don't really capture the original charm of the original cast. So you're just kind of left wanting.
Enough!
The characters are pretty generic. I mean, even with Mavis, who we all remember from the movies, it doesn't really hold too well. Her and her friends are basically just the Count and his friend, but teenagers. It's like, really? You're not gonna change it up? Like, hell, they got the Frankenstein, they got the mummy, they got the goo monster. It's like, come on, shouldn't you switch it up here? Like, have different movie monsters or something. That's just kind of the downside to this. It just feels like, you know, that Flintstones kids, basically. It's like, why? Like, who really needed this? If anything, we'd rather a sequel to the movies. Granted, they're planning a sequel, so there's really no point to this series at all. It's just kind of a bummer with this.
Thanks, you're a big help.
The humor is nowhere near as good as the movies. They don't have all the comedic timing, or the slapstick, or the general wackiness. It does rely on wackiness, but it's just not as good, you know? The original had it down to a T. It had a nice formula to it. Here it just feels like, well, we're being wacky because the movies were wacky, you know? It's like, oh, but it just feels like you're half-assing it. It just feels half-assed. That's what's really bad about it. And another thing is that the animation just isn't as good neither. Like, the slapstick that happens in the show is nowhere near as good as the movies because the movies were very fluid and very fast-paced. Here, it feels sluggish. It just feels like we couldn't keep up with how the movies do it. And for obvious reasons, you're a TV show. And you're made in Canada, of all places. So you're really not gonna be as on par as the movies. So it just feels like you shouldn't have bothered. You just shouldn't have bothered.
There is a kazoo wedged inside your brain.
Told ya!
Hey, girls.
Hey, Pedro!
This is sort of a weird TV show, mainly in terms of its production. It's executive produced by Sony, but it's made in Canada and it airs on Disney Channel. I'm kind of laughing at myself because it's like, well, I can't knock Disney for this. It's not like they made it. It's clearly just one of those TV shows that's there to fill in the time slot. They'll probably have it like on the daytime schedule or something like that. There's really nothing to it. It's nothing special. It's not as good as the movies. It doesn't expand on the movies. It's just plain average. You won't find yourself paying attention to it too much. I mean, I zoned out every time I tried watching just the first episode. It'll most likely just work as background noise and nothing else. But that's just a thought.
We gonna have no party, so you